All right, let's dive into the ancient Roman house. But I want you to forget about just stone and mortar for a second. Think of it more like a living, breathing theater. A stage where the drama of Roman life played out, day in and day out.
Seriously, just think about that for a minute. What if your home was a stage? What if every single room, every hallway, even your front door, was all designed for a performance? A place where you weren't just, living, but you were constantly putting on a show for an audience.
Well, for the ancient Romans, this wasn't just some hypothetical question. It was reality. The house was the #1 stage for showing off your power, your religious devotion, your social standing. And this whole idea, this theatricalism, is really the key to unlocking how they lived. So come on, let's pull back the curtain.
Okay, so our tour is going to start right at the front door, in the parts of the house that everyone could see. And believe me, this wasn't just a place to crash. It was a meticulously designed set. The whole point was to impress and, yeah, maybe even intimidate anyone who walked in, right from that very first step.
And of course, every great stage needs a star, right? The lead actor. In the Roman house, that was, without a doubt, the pater familias. This is the head of the family, and when I say his power was absolute, I mean absolute. He controlled the money, the people, the family's entire identity, and his most important job was making sure that family name lived on.
And the sheer scope of his authority was just huge. When we talk about the Roman familia, you have to get the idea of a modern nuclear family out of your head. We're talking about his wife and kids, sure, but also adopted sons, who were often grown men, slaves, freed slaves who were still tied to him, and even foster children. Every single one of them lived under his roof and under his command.
And this is where the architecture itself becomes part of the show. It's almost like choreography. Many Roman houses were designed with this really strong, straight line of sight. So imagine you're a visitor at the front door. You could look straight through the main hall, the atrium, all the way to the back of the house, where the pater familias would be waiting. It's a total power move, literally built into the floor plan.
But the pater familias wasn't the only powerful one calling the shots. Oh no, there was a whole other cast of characters, an unseen cast, the gods of the home, who were a part of every single family ritual.
Yeah, every single woman home had its own team of divine guardians. You had Vesta, goddess of the hearth, literally the fire in the home. Then there were the Penates, who protected the pantry, the food supply. You had the Lares, who were kind of the general guardians of the home and family. And then there was the Genius. This was the personal spirit, the life force of the pater familias himself, something passed down from father to son.
And these weren't gods you just worshipped at some big temple downtown. No, they were worshipped right there inside the house. The two main spots for this were the hearth, that was Vesta's domain, and a special little household shrine they called a lariaria.
Now these shrines, the latteria, they came in all shapes and sizes. Some were really simple, just a little nook carved into the wall where you could leave a quick offering. But others, they were super elaborate, built to look like tiny little temples, a really obvious way to show off how devout and how rich your family was.
There's actually a great quote from the poet Tibullus that just makes this whole thing come alive. He talks about leaving offerings of grapes or honey cakes, and he describes the man's little daughter standing right behind him. It just paints such a clear picture, doesn't it? This wasn't some abstract thing. It was a real, hands-on, daily part of life, interacting with the gods who lived right there with you.
Okay, so we've seen the main public stage. Now let's step behind the curtain. Go a little deeper into the house, into the rooms that we would probably call private. But you're about to see that even these spaces had a role to play in the big performance.
So the main space for resting or sleeping in a Roman house was called the cubiculum. We'd probably just call it a bedroom.
But here's the thing. It wasn't just for sleeping. Not by a long shot. A really powerful Roman might meet with his closest allies or cut a secret deal right there in his cubiculum. So even this private room could instantly become a little side stage for the high-stakes drama of politics and business.
And that brings us to the main acts. Because the house wasn't just a backdrop for the day-to-day stuff, it was the central stage for the biggest dramas in any Roman's life: birth, marriage, and death. And trust me, each one was a full-blown theatrical production. Okay, Act 1, birth. A few days after a baby was born, the family put on a ceremony called the Dies Lustricus. Think of it like a play in 4 parts.
First, the father formally accepts the baby into the family by literally lifting it up off the ground. Next up is a purification ceremony. Then, the big moment, the baby gets a name, which is what officially made it a person in society's eyes. And for the finale, the child was given a special amulet called a bula to wear for protection until they grew up.
Then you have marriage, which was just pure theater. It all started at the bride's house, with all these rituals about her purity and virtue. Then came the big showstopper, this huge procession, parading the bride through the streets all the way to her new husband's house. The grand finale happened right on the doorstep, where she'd be carried inside. It was this huge symbolic moment of leaving her old family and officially joining the new one.
And the final act? Death. The Roman funeral, the funis, was maybe the most dramatic performance of them all. First, the body would be laid out in the atrium, right in the heart of the house for everyone to see. But then, and get this, during the funeral procession, actors would wear wax masks made from the faces of the family's ancestors. They were literally bringing generations of the family back to life to walk the streets. It was an absolutely incredible spectacle that tied the family's past, present, and future all together.
So we've toured the stage, we've seen the big performances. What does it all add up to? What's the big takeaway? Well, it's this incredibly deep connection between the physical building of the house and what it actually meant to be Roman.
Because the Roman house wasn't just a place where life happened. In a way, it was a machine for making Romans. It was designed to pump out citizens, to teach them their values, and to lock in their place in society.
Think about it. Every single thing we've talked about, that power play line of sight, the little shrines to the gods, those big dramatic rituals for birth, marriage, and death, it was all part of the same system. It was a constant performance that hammered home everyone's role, their duties, and their very identity, every single day. At the end of the day, the Romans built their homes to tell a very specific story, a story about power, family, and destiny. And that really makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, look around your own home right now. How does the design, where you eat, where you hang out, what's on your walls, how does all that shape the unwritten story of your life?